Hi everybody, this is Iron Weasel here, with why YouTube should embrace Gonzo journalism. It is time for YouTube to be honest about the demonetization and censorship we are seeing on YouTube currently, and admit it is absolutely politically motivated. Conservative channels have been revealed to be targeted unfairly, and with YouTube CEO Susan Wojcicki revealing in an interview that she thinks being interrupted is a form of sexism, it isn't hard to see where their bias rests. This sort of closed-mindedness and unwillingness to hear other views is very toxic. Attempting to censor and control the flow of information like this has always had disastrous results in the end, usually for those attempting to execute the censorship. What people like Susan need to understand is that the open flow of ideas is necessary for any form of progress. By shutting down and silencing everyone in an entire demographic, you harden the resolve of those people. They become less likely to hear your opinion, and they indoctrinate others to join them. YouTube has decided that it is too large to fail, without taking even a moment's hesitation to realize that the televised media once thought the exact same thing. YouTube feels as though it's so large it can funnel ideology down the throats of its consumers without them being able to go elsewhere. The problem with that thought process is that the internet doesn't work like cable television. It isn't owned completely by any one single person. Very little is preventing a competitor from opening up its own server and stealing patronage from YouTube. YouTube is not too big to fail and cannot afford to alienate its viewers en masse. To quote John Gilmore, the net interprets censorship as damage and routes around it. Furthermore, this type of behavior isn't conducive to even the ideology they are trying to support. Censorship has long been the enemy of the left. It used to be the far right that was concerned with information control. Back in the 90s, it was the religious right attempting to control everything from cartoons to evolution being taught in classrooms. In the 1960s and 70s, we saw this form of censorship used against women's rights groups, just like we are seeing it used against men's rights groups today. I think the draw for almost every YouTube viewer over the age of 18 was that the free-for-all of ideas was a refreshing change of pace from that of the syndicated media, who had defaulted to treating us like ignorant children. It was nice to finally have a place we could go to experience ideas and raw and real news without having to deal with the blatant manipulation that was taking place on television. The people these regulations seek to silence do not hold very extreme views largely. I realize there is a problem with actual sexism in the men's rights movement, but most of us are just interested in bringing light to real issues like death in the workplace and very biased laws that have hurt men tremendously, and women too by proxy. We really are all in this together, being the same species and everything. That means both sides should be heard without this sort of draconian censorship in place. Hearing honest from the heart opinions and thoughts is excellent, even if those thoughts are toxic. I've heard other MRAs say things that were so sexist it hurt to hear, but I'm glad I heard it. I've heard racists from almost every race say horrible things, but I'm still glad I heard them speak their mind, because it let me know where I stand with them. That sort of honesty is a starting place for us to begin working on real change. Forcing hateful ideology into the closet to fester and grow is a terrible thing. I live in the Deep South, and I've seen that firsthand. The worst racism I've seen came from people that felt they weren't allowed to speak about it. My area is full of racists that, while friendly up front, harbor deep-seated resentment towards other races. This is bad for everyone. The population of racists grows because these people teach their children to harbor that subversive hatred, and no one stops them from teaching their children because they never realize it's an issue until it's too late. So even bad ideas need to get out there in the open so they can be dealt with. I remember my own father, once we came up on a group of Hispanics checking out in the grocery store, and he said something like, "I'll bet they're checking out with food stamps and not paying a dime in taxes either." I looked at him and I told him, "You're just jealous you can't get away with avoiding taxes." He laughed at me and said, "I guess you're right." That was the beginning of the end of his xenophobia, and it wouldn't have happened if he hadn't aired out his racist thought. I want to make it very clear I realize those people probably were paying taxes. I may not win many friends for this, but I do support illegal immigrants. I'm not a big supporter of the tax system or telling people what they can and cannot do if they aren't harming anyone directly. I realize they are breaking the law, and I don't care because it's a stupid law. I could spend all day ranting about indirect harm, and I probably will in a future video. But my big point here is that even horrible thoughts are better out in the open than they are hidden. I mean, just look at the recent Daddy of Five incident. That was a heartbreaking situation, but we were all better off for it having been aired so we could all see it. I'm certain those children are much better off now that something has been done, whereas before YouTube, they would have just suffered in seclusion. We have to address the advertiser-friendly content issue as well. I'm going to begin by saying I just don't buy it. I think this is an attempt on the part of YouTube to obtain plausible deniability by saying, look, it's not our political motivations here, it's the advertisers. Really, honestly. But even if it really happens to be the advertisers that don't want their name attached to specific types of content, there are better ways to deal with the situation than outright censorship and demonetization. An algorithm to sort ads and attach them to content related to key demographics is a far better solution, which was already in place and functioning fine. There's always something you can market to any demographic in conjunction with content restricted mode. That is all that's needed. Beyond that, YouTube needs to stand their ground as a medium that supports free speech and will not kowtow to the control of advertisers like the old media did. Finally, we have to realize that the vast majority of people producing content on YouTube have very genuine and positive intentions, even if some of us are misguided. This move by YouTube shows a profound lack of faith in its content creators to self-manage. Throwing your content creators under the bus so you don't have to hear things you don't like, or so that advertisers will play ball, is a losing game. YouTube is a heavy hitter in advertiser platforms right now. They could lay down the law and say if you don't like it, leave it. But they don't, and that's disheartening. I want to see a YouTube full of Hunter S. Thompsons speaking their mind and telling everyone how they see the world. Advertisers will come around, but if the spirit of YouTube dies, the site will die, and that will be a sad thing. I'm having a difficult time growing my page because of this very type of censorship. So please like and subscribe and share. It's free and it helps a lot. I've got some big things coming up, so stay tuned. This is Iron Weasel, signing out.